Hi friends, welcome to Harmony Hills Home and Garden. I'm Jenny and we live and garden here in Baltimore, Maryland, Zone 7. Today I thought I would take you on an in-depth tour around our front gardens, our front yard and the gardens that we have out in the front of the house. In the past I've done a mid-month full garden tour that takes you all around the entire property, but those turn out to be really long. So I thought I'd be able to spend a little bit more in-depth time just in one section of the garden today. So come with me and let's take a look around our front gardens in the middle of June 2022. We have a nice cool breeze going on. We're about to get some rain, so I'm hoping to get this tour done before the rain comes. So we're out here at the front and let's just turn the camera around and see how things are looking. I have to say, I'm pretty happy with how things are coming along so far. Here we are in middle of June and I've got a lot of blooms that have already passed, but some that are just happening now and more coming on still. So right here in the welcome gardens, we've got the Jackmanii Clematis that's really going gangbusters. This is its first full spring in place here. It's climbing up this lamppost, and I planted it last summer or fall. Can't remember exactly what time of year it was, but it's doing pretty well, and this will bloom hopefully most of the summer. This beautiful bright purple. You can still see some buds coming on. Yeah, lots coming on here. And then the spent flowers leave behind these really interesting kind of flower head seed pod situation, which is nice to see too. So lots of interest even when it's not blooming. Down in this bed down here, you've seen these plants before, but just as a quick reminder, spilled wine Weigela. It has a nice greenish, burgundy-ish, bronzish cast to the leaves on it. And in an earlier tour, I said maybe I would take them out because they were too close to the color of the mulch. But as the mulch has faded and the leaves have aged, I think it's a perfectly fine color here. So we're going to go ahead and leave the Weigelas here. Millennium Allium, I've got 4 clumps of that here, and they've got lots and lots of buds on them. But I'd say we're still a little bit of time away from those buds opening up. The Sunshine Ligustrum that I have in these gardens out here didn't do very well over the winter. They are really looking worse for the wear. I'm not pleased with that, and I'm considering replacing that with something else, maybe an Abelia, maybe just like an Ascot Rainbow Euphorbia, something chartreuse, but the Sunshines just didn't do well. Maybe I'll give them another summer and another winter to see if they recover better and do better, but I'm just not pleased with how those look. The Dwarf Burford hollies are looking gorgeous, nice and glossy green leaves. They really like this spot, I think. This is a banana cream daisy that's getting ready to open up very soon. And Ageratum, I believe that's Blue Planet Ageratum. I did these from seed this year, and I'm really liking the way they're coming together. It took them a while to get started, but now they're really prolifically blooming. This beautiful blue color. This is a great color to use if you want to do patriotic red, white, and blue plantings. It's pretty close to blue. I mean, it's got a lot of pinkish, purplish undertones, but as far as blue plants go, this is a pretty blue one. Over here, these are Benary's giant coral zinnias, and they're just starting to put on some buds. But you can see how huge these leaves are. Wow! Can't wait to see this blooming. I think I've got 5 here and 5 over on the other side, and I'm looking forward to having those blooms and see what they do. This zinnia, I believe, is a volunteer from last year's zinnia planting. Then we've got wild violets in here throughout. Oh, look, there's another volunteer zinnia there. I'll just let that go. Now, here's some ranunculus. I am not going to plant ranunculus anymore. My summers are too hot too early. They never bloomed. They just didn't do well, so giving up on that as a plant to try. I still have space here. I could be putting some things in here. Here's some yarrow. I did this from seed as well. So that'll be nice, I think. I might move it a little bit further into the bed so that when it grows, it doesn't flop out onto the walk. This is a dahlia. Last year I had dahlias that I grew from seed in this bed, And this, I guess, returned either from seed or maybe from a piece of a tuber that got left in the ground or something. So that's what's in this welcome bed out here. And I'm pretty pleased with it. Still has some room for color. I could put some annual color into this area here. So I'm thinking about what to do there. I still have some plants in my stash that could go there. On this side of the walk is exactly the same plantings, except instead of a clematis, we have a magenta chiffon rose of Sharon back there in the back, which is not yet blooming, but I'm hopeful. Same thing on this sunshine ligustrum. It's looking really bad. Not happy with that. But the Ageratum behind it is beautiful and getting lots of nice long stems that could be used for cutting in vases. So that's a success. And the more you cut it, the more it puts out, I think. So I need to keep cutting on that so that it'll continue to give us flowers. Burford holly doing well. Beautiful glossy green leaves. And again, the Millennium Allium, going to pop here in a little while. This spilled wine is doing well, just like the other one across the way. These banana cream daisies have popped open already. And they're a nice, soft, buttery yellow. And my understanding is that when they open up, they're a darker yellow, and when they fade, they go to more of a cream. That is why it got its name, so it's more of a banana cream pie situation going on with the colors. And there's more Ranunculus that failed, so again, not going to work on Ranunculus anymore, I don't think. There's another daisy clump. And these are more of the Benary's giant coral, I believe, which are budding up and going to pop open soon. And some more yarrow. So again, on this side also, I have room for more annual color, or maybe more perennial color. Not exactly sure what I'm going to do in these beds yet. Now you might have noticed that I do have irrigation run out here. I have a lot of video footage filmed about my irrigation that I've put into the front yard, but I just haven't edited it yet and published it. So it's coming. If you're interested in how I put the irrigation together, that'll be coming soon. But for now, let's just look at the plants. Okay, so the front foundation beds are looking really, really full. Now, in the spring, I thought these beds were going to be empty, and I was worried that it wouldn't look nice, but they really have changed over time. So, again, just a note about the irrigation. Over here, the irrigation is done, but not yet covered and buried. Over here, the irrigation is done, and it is partially buried. This part's buried, over there is buried, but in this area, in the middle, it's not yet. So I'm still a work in progress. All right, so these are the Verbena that you saw me plant a couple of weeks ago. We've had so much rain, and I don't think they actually need as much rain as they were getting. So they haven't exactly flushed out with blooms the way I want them to. I plan to put down more liquid fertilizer for them for a bloom boost and see how they do. Also, I should mention, that's a Ranunculus and that's a Ranunculus. Again, my Ranunculus failure. I'm not going to be doing that again. So, but I do like the way these purple shades are mixing together. It's coming out pretty much exactly what I had in my mind. Yay! Let's go this way first. So, over here, now these are my Snapdragons that I grew from seed, and I've been cutting on them. You may be able to tell, like this one's been cut, that one's been cut, these have been cut here. And they're just beautiful, aren't they? I really love them. Honestly, I don't remember which varieties these are. Probably Appleblossom, probably Potomac Pink, but I don't recall for sure. I know I planted Bridal Pink, Potomac Pink, Appleblossom, and Madame Butterfly Rose. I know these are not the Madame Butterfly Roses, but I think they're Appleblossom and either Potomac Pink or Bridal Pink. But I really like those, so I will be repeating these Snapdragons or similar Snapdragons in these styles because I just love the cuttings and the bouquets I've been able to take off of them. Anxious to see how they do over the course of the rest of the summer. All right, and the soft touch compact hollies, Japanese hollies that we've got spread across the front of the gardens. They're all doing really well. They've all put on new growth, and they're all nice and healthy. So very pleased with that choice. Again, here are some more Snapdragons that I've already cut, and they're starting to put on side shoots, so hopefully we'll get more blossoms off of those. I'm eager to see how they do. I'm just not sure. And it seems to me that this variety is different from that variety. You can tell by the leaves, right? So that's interesting. All right, so the golden variegated liriope I have in clumps kind of randomly spread throughout the garden, and this is a nice looking clump of it right there. And the lemon thread cypress. I love the color of it. I trimmed it last year and it was looking pretty formal and rigid there for a while, but now it has started to get shaggy again in all the best ways. This is what this is grown for, these threads, and I just love it. It's kind of a cousin it plant when it's in its element. So I shaped it last year for size, and now I'm just waiting for it to become hairy again. Here are some Nicotiana that I planted from seed. I think there are 3 plants in here. They're all blooming. These 3 happen to be all white. I didn't know that when I planted them. I do have some more Nicotiana in the plant stash that I could put in here, so I think I'll probably do that just to add some more color variation. I also have some allium seed heads that are drying in place, and when they're dry, I'll take them out and save them for dried arrangements or other decorative purposes. This is my mini pearl phlox that is done blooming, needs to be deadheaded, but if you might recall, these are the flowers, and they had just big, huge pom-poms of this white flower all over this plant a couple of weeks ago. This is my autumn twist azalea, Encore azalea, and it has recovered from the deer damage that it took, so it'll get another summer in. I'll see if I can protect it better over this coming winter. And I still have a rose that I didn't get all the roots of the rose out when I took out the yellow knockout roses last year. So I probably need to dig that out, otherwise we'll have competition going on. Winecraft Black Smokebush. I'm very happy to see that it's actually showing its legs. It's more of a small tree than it is a shrub, which is good. I'd like it to be limbed up. It will eventually grow to fill in this space up here, but while it's low, I like that its legs are showing. And when the foliage is up in this area, I will also limb it up so that you can see its legs, and that way I can have less competition for plants that are around its feet. It did bloom this year, and it's really hard to see. I think we'll look at them when we get over on the other side, but right there is the bloom panicle of it. Liriope clumps. I have 6 or 8 different clumps of liriope around the gardens, and they've all got buds on them, but not blooming yet. Here's another Ageratum, again, blue planet. Look how long this stem is. That's at least 2 feet long, maybe longer. The fairy rose has done its first full blush of flowers, full flush of flowers, I should say, and now it's starting to put on more buds for its second flush of flowers. This doesn't technically need to be deadheaded unless you just can't stand the way that looks, but I'm kind of fine with it. This is Night Salvia that needs to be deadheaded, and this is Caradonna Salvia that needs to be deadheaded. Actually, you can see I didn't get it deadheaded. These finished blooming, and then this is a newer bloom that came on after these. So you can see the purple ones in there are the second flush, and so I should do a better job deadheading it, and then it would give me even more flush of bloom. Here's more mini pearl phlox, and then there's another clump over there. So I had 3 clumps of it going across here. Now that it's finished, all 3 of these clumps, I'm going to deadhead them, and then I'm going to possibly dig up this middle one, leave the 2 outside ones, and then dig this one up and divide it into 2 and put it over on the other side of the garden. And that way, when these 2 are blooming, I'll have some over there that are blooming as well for white balance. I talked about white balance from north to south or left to right in a short a couple of weeks ago, and I used it as an excuse to go plant shopping. And that's true that I do need to have more plants Who doesn't? But I've decided that instead of putting a different plant on the other side that is white, I'm going to put the same plant over there because that way they'll bloom at the same time and they'll be balanced at the same time. Whereas if I bought a white plant that bloomed at a different time in a different form, different height, etc., it still wouldn't be balanced. I'd have white over here and then later or earlier I'd have white over there that looks a little bit different. So I think I'm going to put the same plants on both left and right, and that way it'll be more balanced that way. I mentioned earlier that I did get the irrigation installed. This is all 1/2 inch drip line with emitters every 9 inches that put out 1 gallon per hour. So it's quite a thick, heavy irrigation. And so I run it only as needed. So far we've had a lot of rain. I haven't had to run it very much at all. And this part hasn't been covered up yet, but I think I mentioned earlier that down here it has been covered. And you can see how much nicer it looks when you can't see the irrigation lines compared to when you can. So this is an ongoing project in the front yard. Ascot Rainbow Euphorbia looking really nice. It's been blooming for quite some time and it looks like the blooms are starting to go over now. But it was really long-lasting blooms all spring. So what I'll do is once I see that they're really done and looking kind of ratty, I'll trim this off and let the stem continue to grow with its leaves there. Here's another Encore Azalea. And again, the deer damage has been recovered with new growth, so we're going to let this stay here and see if I can keep it out of the deer's mouth and maybe it'll do better. There's another liriope clump, another soft touch holly doing well. Lots of new growth on those. I'm really happy. Another mini pearl. Okay, here's a little pathway that I've left open so that I can get back to the hose. So that's why it looks like there's a hole in the garden, because there is a hole in the garden right there so that we can walk through there. I eventually will put some stepping stones. Over here, this is where I have some status. I think this is white and blue status, although the only ones that are blooming so far are the white ones. Seeker white, I think. I'm not sure about that exactly. Dave says it looks like a weed, and I kind of have to agree, but I'm hoping that now that I have the irrigation in place, it'll get more consistent water, it'll grow better, and be more filled in. Last year I grew status, and it filled in an area really thickly, so I'm hoping that this will do that too. These are Powwow Wildberry Echinacea, and I'm a little worried about that one. It might have Astor's yellow disease, or Astor yellow's disease. Where's the S go on that? I'm not sure. Which is a disease that's carried by an insect from plant to plant, and it gets infected with this virus in the plant, in the plant's veins and sap, and you know it's systemic in the plant. So you can't just cut it back and have it regrow like you could for something like insect damage on the leaves or rust or something like that. So I'm hoping that this one will show me that it's just slow, but so far I'm happy with this one. I just love the color. They just opened today, so these are really nice to see out here today. But I'm hoping that this will be a nice little grouping of pink coneflowers rather than what it is right now, which is kind of barren. You know, you have plans and then, you know, this is what plans turn out to be. So I'm hoping the status will fill in, and I'm hoping these coneflowers will fill in. There's some more liriope. This rose has been through its first flush as well. This was the Passionate Kisses rose. It's gorgeous. I love it. I need to deadhead some more. I've already deadheaded a little bit on it, and I need to do some more so that hopefully it'll bloom some more for us. Back in here is a huge clump of irises, and I need to divide those, but I'll probably wait till the fall to do that job. And in front of it, I've got some more Night Salvia and more Caradonna Salvia. These actually, I thought I had transplanted them to up over here, but apparently I left some behind in the ground, and so they've regrown. So they're very tenacious, it appears. Here's another clump of liatris that is getting ready to bloom. Leucothui, Gerard's Rainbow Leucothui, we put in last fall as part of our foundation refresh project, and it took some winter damage more than I wanted it to, but it is recovering You see all of these bright green leaves are new this spring. You can see the old leaves start where they're nice and dark green. So basically everything from here up is new. And this is a brand new whole stem and so forth. And here's another brand new stem. And so it's recovering, and I'm hoping that now that its root system is a little bit more established, it'll make it through the winter a little bit easier. Here's some more Ageratum. I had 3 here, but only one of them survived, and it's not blooming as much because it's under the shade of this crepe myrtle and a walnut tree. So it hasn't really bloomed a whole lot, but I'm hopeful. I might move it to another location where it'll get more sun and perform better. Another soft touch holly. This is a white penstemon, and it's done blooming. You can see it has gone over. This one is not reblooming. I don't know why, but a lot of penstemon, when you cut them back, it'll flush a second time, but not this one. Here are the geraniums that my daughter-in-law's mother gave me. This is Bevan's variety and Shepherd's something. Shepherd's Warning? Shepherd's something. So they're both doing really well. They were just little teeny tiny clumps of roots when I received them, and they've quadrupled or more in size this spring, so that's nice. They have flowered already. I'm hoping they'll continue to flower some more. Here's another Gerard's Rainbow Leucothui. Here's my Ruby Spice Clethra. Uh-oh. The deer have been here. Look at that. Those dastardly demon deer. I'm just noticing this, and it's been quite a while because it's already calloused over. Look at that. Oh, darn it. Ugh. But here's what it would look like if it hadn't been eaten. So I am going to get a few blooms on it, but dang it. I'm hoping, because these are low, that this was a young deer, and that it didn't like it, and that's why it didn't take the whole plant. That's my hope. Because the taller deer, the parent deer, would be able to reach these taller ones, and they didn't take it, so maybe that means that the young deer nibbled it, tasted it, and moved on. I don't know. Anyway, Ruby Spice Clethra has some buds on it, and hopefully it will thrive there. I have several lines of irrigation in here. I'm going to be putting some more hardy geraniums across this front to make a nice border around here. And then in this area is where I'm going to put the Japanese anemones that I just bought. I keep saying anemone, but it's really anemone. All right, and back in there are some shrubs that came with the house, and I don't really know exactly what they are, except this is a pure white azalea. I don't know its variety, but it's beautiful. This is, back behind there, is waxleaf privet, and 2 holly bushes. I don't know what variety they are, but they might be Burford hollies. They look like Burford hollies, like the ones I have out front. Okay, now let's come down this path and we'll look at the back side, the more interior plants. Starting with this. This is a double knockout rose. It has bloomed beautifully, and now it's starting to go over. This is the same variety of rose that we have over there, but those get so much more sun than this one that this one is like 2 or 3 weeks behind in its bloom cycle compared to that one. So that's nice to have it actually a succession. This isn't the color I would have picked to put in my garden, but it's growing on me. I don't mind it as much as I used to. All right, also back in here, let's talk about this, our Taylor junipers. We have 4 of these across the front of the house. I just put them in last year. They will grow tall and skinny, so they'll probably end up somewhere in this white space between this first and second story, somewhere in here, and it'll be about this wide as it grows. It'll be about 3 or 4 feet at the bottom and really pencil-like as it goes up. And so hopefully that'll cover this corner of this house with this downspout. And then we have one over on this side of the front porch over there, one on that side of the front porch, and one on the far corner of the house. And they're all very healthy, growing nicely, put on a lot of nice new growth this year. You can see, what is that little white bug? I don't know what that is. Huh. Anyway, they used to be this tall last year, and now in this spring they've put on about 6 inches of growth, so that's nice. Here is one of many Mahogany Splendor hibiscus that I've put in. I'm testing red foliage in this spot, so it's coming along. It's not really going gangbusters though, so I don't know. I'm hoping that it'll give me a nice red shrub there so I can see if I like red foliage in this spot. Okay, coming back around this way. I also have a pathway that goes over to the front right here so that we can walk through here for gardening purposes and for watering and so forth before we had the irrigation. So that's why this little pathway is here. So this is kind of an island right here that's accessible from all the different sides. Here's the Sunshine Ligustrum that's doing the best. I have 4 of them. This one's doing the best of all of them. It only has a little bit of dead tips, just a few, but it did flush out. But it's not growing very fast and it's not growing very strong. So again, not a fan of those so far. More of the blue planet Ageratum, looking really nice. In here, this is interesting. To me anyway, I hope it is to you. This is the stems of last year's Mexican petunia plant that I was told would be hardy in my zone. So I left the stems here so that I would remember where they were. I have 1, 2, 3 of them. There's the 3rd one. And so they were not coming and they were not coming. And this spring I thought they were dead. And so I planted foxgloves in here so that next spring we'll have foxgloves towering up here in this space in the springtime. But in the last week, we've gotten green growth on all 3, and this one actually is going pretty well, on all 3 of the Mexican petunias. So I think it's going to be nice actually that we'll have, these will grow tall. They'll probably be about 2.5 to 3 feet tall this year with purple flowers on them. And it'll fill in nicely, but it should still allow these foxglove plants to grow the base plant. Then next spring, after the Mexican petunias have died back for the season, the foxgloves will put up their big stalks and flower here gorgeously. And then after the foxgloves are done, the Mexican petunias hopefully will return again. So this should be a nice pairing to have in here to use this space efficiently. I'm hopeful anyway. Back in there, that's a lantana. I forget which particular variety it is, I'm sorry, but it's a vibrant pink and yellow. Let me zoom in a bit. There you go. And I was hoping it would be growing bigger and better than it is, but alas, this is what it is. This is an orange rocket barberry that's got really interesting colors on it. Its new growth is bright orange, as you can see there. And then it changes to a burgundy. And then down in the areas of the shrub that it doesn't get much sun, it's a vibrant green. So it's a really interesting color to bring to the garden. Now, as far as invasiveness, it's my understanding that this one is almost sterile, and so it's not invasive like the native, not native barberry, but the species barberry. I think these hybrids are sterile, so I'm not concerned about that. Here I have a few Verbena bonariensis that well, this is just one, that I grew from seed and it was flopping, so I stuck it in, hello crow. So I stuck it in this plant support that this lily is on. And so it's kind of flopping funky over here. And, you know, this is its habit to be tall and kind of wandering. So I'm hopeful that it'll, I don't know, do something more interesting than what it's doing right now over the course of the season. Boy, those crows are noisy up there. Whew. All right, so where were we? More Nicotiana here. Grew these from seed as well. So this is a nice vibrant pink one, magenta, almost red. Plum, actually it's got purple tones in it. Yeah, and then there's another white one there. This is the delphinium that this is the King Arthur one. Bloomed so gorgeously all season. Now I'm just waiting for its seed pods to ripen so that I can collect the seeds and or spread them here. Are there seeds in here? No, no seeds. But I'm letting these seed heads stay on here so that hopefully they will give me seeds. More alliums drying. This is a Gara, Beliza dark pink. Hasn't started to bloom yet, but lots of foliage. But I had two Gara in here, but only one of them returned. Here's some more liatris clumps. This is returning black and blue salvia from last year. So I have 3 clumps of it, and they just started to put on their first bloom stalks. So this will be a nice big salvia in the garden here. I've got it situated in front of the Miss Kim lilac so that this will steal the show, and this will just be a nice green backdrop. As this lilac grows, I'll probably limb it up so that, again, I can have its legs showing and plant things underneath and around it. And then it'll fill in this area in the future. What else is in here? Let's see. This is another echinacea. I forget which variety that is, but it seems to be a differently colored pink than the ones that are over there. I like it. And there's another one. That one looks diseased. It might be problematic, but I'm going to give it another minute and let it see what it wants to do. Here's some more Verbena bonariensis. 2 more stalks of it with its big, tall lollipops. Those are 5.5 feet tall. Again, the black and bloom Miss Kim lilac. Here's my irrigation system at the moment. I have some leaks, as you can see. You've got wet spots down here. But, oh, look, there's the leak right there. So I need to tighten that up. But in general, I've got 3 zones going, and it's going pretty well, working so well so far. Let's look at the window boxes. Cinnamon basil, amethyst, sparkling amethyst superbena, grape punch superbells, whiteout superbells, truffle of pink gomphrena. Back behind there is a purple basil, and this is an emerald green arborvitae. Let's see. The Homestead purple verbena I trimmed back, and it's just now starting to recover. So we'll get some blooms on that in a couple of weeks. More of the white superbells. More purple basil in the back. This is Bordeaux supertunia. Another arborvitae. Another sparkling amethyst verbena, and another grape punch. Back in there somewhere, there should be some diamond frost euphorbia, but it hasn't really thrived. There also should be some Dusty Miller back behind there, but it also is not really thriving. But despite that, this is a really happy looking flower box, I think. I'm pleased with that. Here's my other Taylor juniper on this side of the house. Here's another orange rocket barberry, again with that mixed colors of orange and burgundy and green all on the same plant. Very striking. Over on this side, here's another mahogany splendor hibiscus. Again, testing colors in the garden by seeing where I would want to have more red foliage. If I like red foliage here, I'll find a plant that permanently is a perennial, not just an annual like that. More liatris, more liriope clumps. This is intersectional peony, Shojiraku, I believe is its name. And it bloomed beautifully. I'm really happy with that. Here's the smokebush from this side, and hopefully we'll be able to get close enough for you to see that it did bloom. Did have some smoky panicles on it, but they were somewhat few this year. I'm hoping that as this continues to grow, those will become more pronounced over time. And now we're back to this side here. This is the spirea. It is just finishing up its first flush of bloom, and then I'll deadhead it and it'll bloom again. And here is the knockout rose, double red, that it was just covered about 10 days ago. And so it's got a few straggling blooms, but those will be deadheaded here in a little bit, and then it'll flush again. Back behind here is Mary Rose, a David Austin rose. And it also had a big flush 10 days ago, and now it's got one spray of blooms coming on. Here's another Mahogany Splendor hibiscus. Same thing, testing red color in the garden. Here are my containers on this side, doing pretty well. This container has a Gomphrena, white Verbena, and this is Rock and Plain the Blues Salvia. This container has just the Rock and Plain the Blues Salvia and the white Verbena. Both of them are looking really nice. Very happy with those. And there's the Blue Star Juniper that we just put in this spring. And here is a Euphorbia that I put in last fall. It's still a baby. It hasn't ever bloomed yet. I forget its name. So we're making progress on our tour. We've done the south side. Now we need to talk about the north side and the shrub border. Hey everybody, it's Editing Jenny. Before we look at the north side of the foundation border and the shrub border out front, I figure it's time to take a little bit of a break. I'm going to end this video here, and then I'll pick up in my next video with the rest of the front yard garden tour. So that'll come in another video tomorrow. Thank you so much for hanging in here and watching this much detail of my front garden tour. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll come back tomorrow and see the rest of the front garden tour, and then in following days we'll be going into other parts of the gardens as well. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you again in another video real soon.